you have a person who stays on top of the organization within your workplace? Smart leaders do. Watch this video to learn how I benefited from a person like this early on, and you can too. I'm Bob Wendover. About 12 months after I opened my business 30-something years ago, I hired Darlene. Turned out to be the great decision for one simple reason. She was better organized than I was. Now, I'm a pretty organized guy, but Darlene brought something to the table that I did not, or even think to look for in an applicant. Experience as an office manager. From the very first week, she started asking me questions about how I did this or the procedure for that. And I would explain because I figured she was just trying to understand how I worked. And this continued day after day. And I didn't look at it as intrusive. She would just find times when I wasn't preoccupied with something else. And after a while, I didn't even really think about it. But then one day, I discovered that there was a method to her madness. I happened to walk past her desk, and there on the top was a loose-leaf binder labeled Procedure Manual. "Where'd this come from?" I asked. "Oh, I made it," she said. "Oh, what's in it?" I asked. And she said, "All the stuff that you've been telling me." "You know, how did you know to do this?" I asked. She said, "Well, I did it in my last couple of jobs, and I figured we could use one here. Besides, you travel a whole lot, so I can't lean into your office anytime just to ask a question. And if they hire somebody new or you hire somebody new, they can look in the manual and find out how we do stuff." Now, I thought that was all brilliant, and I told her so. At the time of that conversation, that manual was about a half an inch thick. When Darlene left us about 5 years later, it was about 5 inches thick. Do you have a Darlene? Now, you might think you do, but does that person have the presence of mind, the detail orientation, and the sense of organization to document the procedures and processes that you and those around you implement on a regular basis? Does that person feel skilled and confident enough to call you out when you start maybe reinventing the wheel or changing a process without thinking it really through, or maybe even suggest a better way to approach what you're trying to accomplish? A person like that is worth their weight in gold, aren't they? So, how do you find and hire a Darlene and bring that person up to speed? Well, here's what I would suggest. 1, be crystal clear in the posting. Let applicants know up front the specifics of what will be expected and the fact that you and those around you will want them to keep the day-to-day stuff organized. Now, a fancy title like Office Organization Czar or something will probably mislead people. Instead, keep it real. That way applicants will sort themselves out and know what they're getting themselves into before they approach you. 2, focus on detail orientation and organization above all during the hiring. A simple cross-the-table interview just doesn't cut it in this situation. Applicants will say anything these days. Instead, put them to work. Design a couple of tasks or exercises that will require them to demonstrate their sense of organization, their situational awareness, their flexibility and creativity in dealing with the unexpected. Here are 3 quick examples. Ask them to complete an in-basket exercise. If you don't know, this is a timed task where the applicant is provided with a stack of documents and receipts and stuff like that, and asked to organize all that stuff as best they can. If you want to do it digitally, you can provide all of that type of stuff on a screen, and full of documents and folders. The point here is not whether they complete the task correctly, but how they go about doing so. I've gone through this exercise myself a couple of times and asked applicants to do it as well. It provides some great insights. Or, present the applicants with a case study based on a typical workplace challenge and ask them to draft a procedure for doing so. Now, once again, this is not about them doing it right or wrong, but how they do it. And this will provide you with insight into not just their sense of organization, but their writing skills. Sadly, you can't assume anymore that applicants know how to communicate on paper. Here's another one. I spoke with a manager of a limited service hotel one time, and he interviews every applicant regardless of position over a basket of towels in the back room. And he teaches them how to fold the towels, and then he asks the standard interview questions while they both fold and stack the towels. And from this, he can pick up such attributes as following directions, hand-eye coordination, organization, confidence in dealing with the unexpected, how they build rapport with people, how they take correction if they've made a mistake, and the ability to balance two tasks at the same time. In other words, answering questions and folding towels. Simple tasks like this reveal much more than the questions every applicant expects to answer. How can you adapt these ideas to your particular situation? 3. Give the person you hire a basic orientation, but be careful not to be too prescriptive. If you dictate everything on the way in the door, they will be hesitant to ask questions or challenge things that don't seem right or make sense, or stuff that appears to be carved in stone. You're hiring them for their expertise, remember? Their sense of organization, their creativity, and their resourcefulness. Encourage them to ask questions and take charge of organizing you and those around you. Now, is it possible that you'll hire someone who is too detail-oriented, maybe to the point of almost being anal? Yeah, that's a possibility, but I would rather hire someone like that and have to tone it down than to try to teach organization to a person who says that he or she is organized but really isn't. Will there be times when you have to get on the same page? Sure, but that happens as any new work relation evolves. If you already have a Darlene, what can you do to take that person to the next level? If you need a Darlene, follow the steps I just mentioned. Once you have someone like this on your team, think of the time and energy that you will save as a leader when this person is up to speed. Now, got ideas about how you do this? Put them in the comments below. We'd all like to know. I'm Bob Wendover.